Welcome back to the Jackie Kaminsky Experience, where we break down the biggest myths, mistakes, and strategies in sports nutrition so you can always perform at your best. And today we're talking about something that has been an overarching topic amongst previous episodes and conversations with other professionals that I have brought on, but it is just so damn important that we're going to talk about it more even today. So if you're always sore, tired, or injured, this is the episode for you because we are getting into why that is happening. So let's talk about something that I see way too often. Athletes who are constantly sore, perpetually tired, and always one step away from their next injury. And they think that's just part of the grind. And I get it, okay? You have to prove that you are tougher than anyone else out there. And that's just the name of sports. Athletes, you do things that no one else can do, and it's just part of the grind, right? Well, maybe not. So if all of that sounds like you, constantly tired, always getting sick or injured, always sore, then this episode is for you. So let me be clear. This isn't about working hard. This is about your body being stuck in a perpetual breakdown mode. And one of the biggest reasons that this is happening is not because of how hard you're training, it's literally because of how poor you are fueling. So fighters, all athletes alike for that matter, listen up. If you train like a professional, but you're skipping meals, under eating, or living on caffeine and prayers, you're not recovering like a professional. And that's where your performance and especially your health are going to start to tank. And let me be very clear, because getting into this episode, I'm never going to be one to tell an athlete to do less. Yes, recovery is super important. If we're talking about your training, you need to incorporate some rest days. Your body cannot be go, go, go. But I, especially in my position, I'm never going to tell an athlete to do less. But if you are going to do more, then we need to support your body in order to be able to do so. So you can't just be going go, go, go all the time and not doing all the right things from a nutritional standpoint to support your body. And here's why. So I've definitely brought this up before. If you are just coming to me for the first time in this episode, I would definitely suggest going through the whole Jackie Kaminsky Experience journey, because this is something that I bring up a lot. So the reason why all of this is happening is because you're putting your body in a state of low energy availability, and even worse, increasing your risk for relative energy deficiency in sport, or what we call REDS. Basically, this condition arises, or how we define this condition, what happens is when insufficient calories are consumed to meet all the exercise and all the calories that you're burning in a day through exercise. So all of that is going to put you in a state of low energy availability. So why are we talking about this again? Why does it matter? Well, let's get into it. First, let's just talk about the prevalence of it, because I'm not just talking out of my ass here when I'm trying to get you to eat more, to start fueling correctly, to start avoiding all of these problems that you commonly experience. This has literally been documented, not just in combat sports, across all sports. So when we pull together tons of studies evaluating problems that we see in athletes, performance decreases, and then we start to evaluate their intake versus how much they're exercising and how much they're expending in a day, well, guess what? Low energy availability prevalence ranges from 22 to 58% across all sports, and that's males and females. So what are some signs and symptoms of low energy availability? We just talked about how it's when you're not consuming enough calories to meet all the training demands, all the energy that you're expending, all the calories that you're burning in a day. So signs and symptoms are going to be, if, weight loss would be a sign and symptom, something that not many people are going to pay attention to, especially in combat sports where we're purposely trying to drop weight. But big ones that you need to pay attention for are going to be chronic fatigue, mood swings. So it can increase things like anxiety, irritability, depression. You're going to experience potentially GI issues. So a lot of you that have bloating problems or everything that you eat, makes you feel really uncomfortable, you're constipated, you feel that like everything is a trigger, it could be a sign of low energy availability. GI issues are a huge sign and symptom for that. Impaired coordination and judgment, that has to do with that chronic fatigue, that tiredness. That's going to affect your brain and how you're able to react to things and pay attention to stuff every single day. And then specifically for females, because our bodies are much more sensitive to low energy availability than men, but menstrual irregularities, so losing your period, having it disappear completely, a huge sign that you're not eating enough to match all the calories that you're burning every single day. So, how does all of this have an effect on our health and performance? Let's talk about performance first, because I feel like you guys don't really care about your health. I'm not saying not all of you do, but when we're talking about how, is this healthy or not healthy for you, especially in combat sports, I mean, you guys are literally getting punched in the face for a living. The health outcomes, you don't really care. But I think performance outcomes you do, because if it's going to affect your ability to win, then you most definitely should care about this, and not just fighters, any athlete for that matter. So we're just going to pull some studies. This is a huge review where a bunch of different studies were pulled in, and across all sports, men, women, older athletes, youth athletes, adolescents, across all age ranges. What happens when low energy availability is present? Well, decreased endurance capacity. So everyone else is able to outperform them from an endurance perspective. Going slower, you can't push as hard, everyone else is passing you. Well, if you're in a fight and your cardio starts to go to shit in round 3, well, that increases your risk for a knockout. So that's not going to help you win. If you're a track athlete, well, I mean, you literally are supposed to be the fastest person out of everyone that you're competing against in order to win. So that's not going to help. We see when we look at all of these studies, in the athletes that have low energy availability, they are the highest group to have the most injuries. So injury risk is significantly increased. Huge correlation there. We see decreases in training responses. So that means that no matter how hard you're lifting in the gym, you're not building muscle. There is a blunted response to anything that you're doing that's going to try and help you. And you have an impaired recovery ability. So you're going to stay super sore, like we just talked about, all the time. Your body's not going to function properly. It's not going to do everything that it needs to make you feel better, quote unquote, repair your body in order to continue to excel the next day, the next training session, in your competition. And last but not least, reduce reaction time. So again, fight sports, if you have to avoid punches and slips and you have to be reactive almost immediately in any contact sport, you just have to act on the fly. Things can happen within seconds. It literally has been measured in athletes who aren't fueling appropriately that they have decreased reaction time and poor judgment. It's just a side effect of being underfueled. And that is, again, not going to help you win. It's going to increase your risk for getting hurt, and it's not going to help you or allow you to grow and become better. Okay, so those are performance effects on low energy availability. Now let's talk about the health ones, because those are important. So this is something that I have definitely talked about in previous episodes, so we're just going to cover it again. Okay, so when we are in a state of low energy availability, we're not consuming enough calories to keep up with the training demands of our sport, and we are doing this for chronic periods of time. Well, one, a really big factor is it can decrease bone mineral density. So what's that going to increase risk for? Fractures, maybe? Stress fractures? Well, been documented pretty significantly across various sports. It's going to lower your thyroid hormones, which is going to in turn lower your metabolism. It's going to increase cortisol levels. Again, that's going to impair the recovery process. It's going to lead to more muscle breakdown. It's going to contribute to you feeling sore all the time. And then that additional stress is also going to be suppressing your immune system. So if you're getting sick all the time, okay, your immune system and your hormones, your metabolism are the first 3 things to go. Females, we lose our periods. Also, if your period starts to disappear, it's coming very infrequently, well, that's a huge sign because that's going to be the first thing to go. If we aren't getting sufficient fuel every single day, well, guess what? Our body's definitely not going to have enough energy to have a child. So we're going to suppress those systems that essentially would allow us to be capable of that. In men, huge decreases in testosterone levels. I mean, pulling studies strictly in fighters, because we do know that low calorie diets and high levels of training, so this state again of low energy availability, there is documented cases of decreased testosterone levels when this happens, especially in fighters. So here's a study in Italian Muay Thai fighters who only lost 4% of their body weight. So this was a rapid weight loss and rapid weight gain study, and they're measuring their testosterone levels over this period. 4% of their body mass. To put that into perspective for you, if you are a fighter, even if you're not a fighter listening to this, 4% is not that much. We try and mitigate within 24 hours. You don't want to lose more than 5% of your body weight in 24 hours. So I need a calculator. Where's my calculator? So just give you some perspective. Let's bring up some numbers right here, okay? So let's say for a 155er, 5% of 155 would only be about 8 pounds. So we try and not to allow athletes within 24 hours to lose more than 5% because obviously that has very severe consequences on their health and puts them in a very significant state of dehydration. So unfortunately, that's not always the reality. More often than not, fighters are very much pushing that limit. I've seen fighters try and do 10% of their body mass in one night. They try and do crazy losses. So in this study, only 4%, okay, so on the lower end of what we would consider safe and appropriate to lose 24 hours prior to weigh-in. They saw significant reductions in testosterone levels in these Muay Thai fighters, and even after experience rapid weight gain, which they put back, roughly 5% of their body mass. And again, this is all fluids losses. This is not like we dieted over the course of 6 weeks. This is within 24 hours. So not only did their testosterone levels significantly decrease after the rapid weight loss, it still remained decreased even after the rapid weight gain. There was a similar study in judo athletes that observed the same exact thing. And then even if we pull across other sports, so low energy availability and testosterone levels is pretty heavily studied or extensively studied in runners especially. So this specific study said elite male endurance athletes running over 100 kilometers per week with low EA had mean testosterone levels significantly lower than their adequately fueled peers. So about 40% of them had clinically low testosterone, and their fractured bone risk was 4.5 times higher than the people who were adequately fueled. So basically the whole point of all of this is that the reason that you're feeling flat, fatigued, and tired all the time is because you're not consuming enough calories in a day, and that's leading you to have poor recovery and poor performance. So how do we reverse all of this, or better yet, prevent it from even happening? Well, going back to nutrition, how do we fuel for optimal recovery to make sure that we are not compromising all of the essential systems in our body that are imperative to contributing to your success and ultimately winning all of your fights? Okay, so one, we talk about it all the time. Protein is king. We need it for muscle repair. Need to be consuming it adequately throughout the day. So in my personal opinion, I think protein pacing is the best strategy. So every 3 or 4 hours, having 30 to 40 grams of protein. If you have a meal that has 100 grams of protein, and then you can push that time frame a little bit longer, or that timing between meals a little bit longer. However, I think spacing it adequately throughout the day. If you are an elite level athlete, this is not just regular average Joe going to the gym. And yes, he can get his protein in 2 hours later and he'll still have a good recovery effect. No, If you're an elite level athlete, you need to consume protein immediately after exercise. The sooner the better. Your recovery is essential because you are burning so many calories in a day. You're pushing your body to its limits, and you have to do that all the time on a continuous basis. So we need to get it in as soon as possible. Essential amino acids, your best friend. Consume them during exercise. That's also going to help offset that fatigue, that muscle soreness, and help boost that recovery process. If we're talking about total protein intake throughout the day, 1.6 grams per kilogram minimum to 2.2 grams per kilogram, or at least your body weight in protein per day. Fighters, if you are cutting weight, if you are in any sort of calorie deficit, just slashing calories by 30% of what you need, so a 30% deficit, significantly increases your need for protein. We covered this in a couple episodes ago. So you need to have at least your body weight in protein per day. So 1 gram per pound, if not more. Like I said, essential amino acids are your best friend. Load up on those, no limit if you're having a hard time getting in from food, but you need to be getting in as soon as possible after exercise. 30-40 grams within 30 minutes to an hour. That's where that timing window is crucial. Okay. Carbs. You guys love to cut them out, and I'm begging you to eat some damn carbs, because carbs, especially post exercise, so we all know carbs gives you energy, but post exercise, your body needs it for the recovery. Protein plus carbs is going to enhance that recovery process within your muscles. It's going to help stimulate that muscle growth. Also, that carb intake post exercise is going to help blunt cortisol levels, which cortisol is super catabolic. It breaks down your muscles. I mean, you need it a little bit, to help get through the workout. It's great for helping break everything down to release nutrients in the body, but we don't want those cortisol levels to be chronically high, because then they're going to lead to all the problems I just talked about earlier. So carbs post-workout helps blunt that a little bit. Carbs too, super important for regulating your hunger hormones. It has a relationship with leptin levels. So if you're chronically going low carb or not eating enough, you're going to disrupt that. Ladies, carbs are needed to help synthesize, and it has a really strong relationship with one of our hormones. Okay, so luteinizing hormone, it's needed to maintain healthy hormone function. When I did my presentation at ISSN talking about female athlete needs, came across a couple studies saying that females shouldn't never really consume less than 150 grams of carbs per day, because that's kind of the threshold. And again, obviously, like every female athlete is different. Obviously depends on how, size, body fat levels, activity. But anything under that threshold starts to cause issues with that luteinizing hormone, which is then going to affect your menstrual cycle. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so just for any athlete, 3 to 5 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. If you're an endurance athlete, if you're super high volume, if you're like a marathon runner, or just you're doing crazy intense exercise, 6+ grams. So 6+ grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight per day. Having at minimum 30 to 60 grams of carbs before your workout, 30 minutes to 1 hour before. You should have at least 30 grams per hour of exercise. So if exercise is continuing beyond an hour, how I'm trying to explain this. So if I were to say, okay, for every hour of exercise, I want your pre-workout snack to contain at minimum 30 grams of carbs. So if you trained for 3 hours, then I would want you to have 90 grams of carbs as your pre-workout. And I would kind of want you to mimic that for your post-workout recovery as well. That's how, when I speak to my athletes, that's how I have them kind of break it down. So again, we need our carbohydrates for the muscle recovery to help lower those cortisol levels and to help give you that adaptive response. So your muscles can grow, you can become faster, you're healthier, better reaction time, not as sore, and you have the energy to push through sessions later on in the day, later on in the week. Your tank's not going to be running on empty. And last but not least, fats contains so many essential vitamins and minerals. It's not going to help so much from a performance perspective, but we need it for hormone support, especially. And like I said, very, very rich in vitamins and minerals that are essential to our overall health. So at minimum, 1 gram per kilogram per day. If you are trying to cut weight, I would say you could do, zero point 0.4 to 0.5 grams per kilogram per day, but you don't want to do this for a sustained period of time. I normally don't recommend for doing it for more than 8 weeks without giving yourself a little break to increase those fat levels, because you don't want to run into like essential fatty acid deficiencies. And then last but not least, making sure you're getting plenty of vitamins and minerals. We talked about this in previous episodes on micronutrients that are essential for your performance, your health, and your recovery. Vitamin D, iron, magnesium, calcium, so many. So definitely, if you want to get a deep dive on micronutrients, would go back to one of my previous episodes to learn a little bit more about that. I'm totally blanking on the episode number right now, so apologies. But if you go to the page, it'll be right there in the title. So we basically break down all the supplements and what they contribute to all the different energy systems, and basically what you should be taking if you are experiencing those signs and symptoms. But food first, okay? Let's make sure you're eating enough every single day. The hierarchy: if you're having all of these problems, tackle sleep number 1. Make sure you're eating enough every day, number 2. Number 3, practice the nutrient timing. And then number 4, worry about the vitamins and minerals that you need to take. Because let me tell you, if you have low energy availability and you think taking a multivitamin is going to fix it, that's not going to fucking happen. And then, of course, we can't forget hydration. Hydration is also a very important part of the equation. I mean, more than likely, when you start to experience decreases in performance, it's because you're not adequately hydrated. So make sure that you consider that as part of your evaluation if you're experiencing a lot of issues, to make sure you're drinking enough water, which I've yet to come across an athlete who doesn't consume enough water, especially here in Florida or anywhere that's just hot and humid. I mean, you guys are drinking like animals, but again, something to keep in mind. So another short and sweet episode today. Again, I'm just trying to drive home the point that the majority of you are underfueling, and that's what's contributing to all of the problems that you're experiencing. And it's not normal, okay? I mean, look, a massive study that looked at over 6,000 athletes. 45% of them had low energy availability, and they classified 60% at risk for REDS, or the relative energy deficiency in sport. So this is not a fluke. It's literally an epidemic. It's something that not just my fighters, you fighters, experience it. I see it across all athletes in sports that I work with, and it's going to be the number one thing that is going to affect how you feel every day. So if we can tackle your nutrition, which so many of you neglect, and it's not like, don't think it is like a crutch or it's like something that is embarrassing to talk about, to seek help to do this. You're not the most educated in this particular field, is why you would bring on an expert like myself, or you're listening to me right now to learn more about what to do. But it's so important that you focus on this and you nourish your body appropriately, because to fight through the pain, to fight through the fatigue, that's not the normal that we should be promoting. And I know it makes you sound cool to be like, always talking about how, hard it is and how you're pushing through the grind. And like, I get it. I get that is helping you create some sort of mental toughness to prove that you're worthy and that you're strong enough. But ultimately, you're digging yourself into a really deep hole that is, 1, going to get you really hurt, and 2, is hurting your chances of winning, which is stupid. Why would you do things that are going to prevent you from winning? That's the whole point of being an athlete and competing, is to be a winner. So we don't want to normalize feeling tired all the time and feeling sore. Yes, of course, there are going to be moments where you will experience that. You guys are pushing yourself to the extremes, but you need to fuel yourself to handle those extremes, to help balance it out, to make sure that you're not digging yourself into a deep hole, increasing your chances of getting hurt, affecting your health long term, and not really meeting your goals. Okay, so to wrap things up, being sore is not a badge of honor. It is a warning light. You can't outtrain under recovery, and you can't just be working off fumes day in and day out. And if you need help figuring out exactly how much you should be eating every single day, how you should space your meals throughout the day, what your plate should look like, what foods you should be focusing on to prevent all these things from happening, reach out to me. This is why I'm here sharing this information with you. I got you. I can put something together. Please, promise you, it'll change your life. I can promise that whatever I put together for you will make you feel extensively better than where you're at now. I mean, that's the feedback I get from every single athlete that I've worked with. They are performing better, eating way more than they used to, and they're having some of the best training days and performance outcomes that they've ever experienced in their career. So it's not a joke. I mean, I've seen it put to practice. So like I said, short and sweet episode today. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Again, at least half of you are watching these and not subscribing. I need more subscribers. Come on, Fight Fam, help your girl out. So yes, really appreciate all the love. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to have a great guest. Hopefully we have in time to get on Dr. Corey Peacock. And we're talking about, does gaining it all back actually help you win? Something that is so heavily debated across fight sports and that you guys love to argue all the time, which is basically why you're doing these huge weight cuts to begin with, is because you want to put back on all the weight to have the weight advantage to win. So we're going to get into what we've actually seen with the data and the research, if that actually is helping you. So stay tuned for next week. Thank you guys so much for listening, and talk soon.